Alright, so I'm going to show how to replace the LCD or the screen on this MacBook Air model A1466. I believe this is an early 2015. So first what you need is a pentalobe. This is a special star-shaped screw. I think only Apple uses this, but pentalobe 1.2. And you'll want to remove all 10 screws. The back two up here are longer, so keep that in mind. You don't want to get them all mixed up and put them in the wrong spot. You can damage stuff. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All right. Once you do that, you can go back towards the hinge area, and then you can pull it up just like this, and the cover will come off like that. Okay. Set that aside. So once you get inside, you want to disconnect the battery. So you'll do that using a T5 screwdriver. All right. So there's 5 screws holding the battery in place. The middle one is they use a different thread locker to kind of hold it in place, but these 3 I believe are the same length, and then the 2 down here are much shorter, so keep that in mind. You want to keep the screws in order, don't get them all mixed up. So that's kind of a rule I follow for every computer I work on. You want to keep all these screws in order so that you know where they came from. You don't want to put the wrong screw in the wrong spot and then you can damage the computer. Usually it's because some screws are too long, and if you put it through a screw area that it's not deep enough, then it will actually make a hole through the other side or rip some components out. Okay, so once you get the 5 screws out, you want to lift up the battery. So I just use my fingernail to get underneath the bottom here. Okay, and then lift it up. When you disconnect this, you want to lift the battery straight up. Don't pull it backwards, because sometimes the cable underneath will get caught. So let me see if I can show you close up. But basically the battery connector here, there's this clear plastic tab. So you grab that and then you kind of just wiggle that and it will come loose. Okay. Once you get the connector out, again, you want to lift the battery up, straight up, because if you pull it straight back, you might yank on this cable with the battery. It might get caught on it. Okay, so there we go. That's how you change the battery. If you want the replacement, the battery model number is A1466. Okay, so right here, A1496. But you do want to check your MacBook just in case, but all the MacBook Airs will usually use the same battery. Sorry, not all the MacBook Airs, but I think like 2012 to 2017. I might be wrong with that, but for sure 2013 to 2017 MacBook Airs use that. Okay, so the main thing we're doing is removing the screen. So what you want to do after you disconnect the battery, you always want to press and hold the power button whenever doing anything with the screen cable. So make sure it's not plugged in, make sure the battery's disconnected, and then hold the power button down for about 15 seconds. This will drain any power from the board so that if you connect anything crooked or wrong, it won't cause a spark and fry anything. Alright, so there we go. So to disconnect the screen cable, let me zoom in for you. So the screen connector is here. Okay, so to lift that up, you just go underneath. There's this little metal bracket. You can go under and grab this black plastic tab, but I find that's more difficult. Then I just use my fingernail, or you can use a pry tool where this metal bar is, and then you just pop that up just like that. So here you can see this bracket goes up. Then you can use this bracket. You can grab both ends, try and pinch close to the bottom as you can, and then just pull the connector straight back like that. Okay, and that's how you remove the LCD connector. Alright, so now we're gonna have to remove some other components on the other side. Okay, if you want to know which screwdriver, just before you start, these are T8 screws holding the hinge in place, so you will need a T8 screwdriver. So we're gonna have to remove this bracket here, or the connector. So to do that, I just use my fingernails, 2 of them like this, and then I just pop it up like that. So same thing with the other side, just pry it up just like that. Okay, be careful that you're not prying the connector on the boards, that you're just prying the connector for this cable. And then usually this adhesive will tear because they put like a weak foam that it just splits in half. But if you can peel it and keep the foam intact, then that'll be nice. But usually, see, as you can see, the foam will separate from this piece here. Okay, so just set that aside. And then what you want to do, we're going to have to remove the fan here. So let's take that out. You'll use a T5 screwdriver. You'll also want to peel up this rubber piece, so peel that up. Okay, just like that. Okay, I might as well make this kind of a more complete disassembly video, or at least explain what other components are nearby, so I'll do that in a bit, but my main goal is to replace the screen here. So I'll remove the screws for the fan. So I remove the two up here, and then there's the middle screw down here. Okay, so remove those 3 screws to get the fan out. So to get the fan out, there's this little latch here. Let me zoom in so you can see. Okay, so here you can see there's this little latch. Let me try and get it in the center. What you do is you get your fingernail or pry tool and flip this little black part of this latch up, just like that. Once you do that, if you already peeled the adhesive out, let me zoom out again. Okay, so once you did that, then of course you already peeled this rubber piece out, then you can lift the fan up and then try and grab underneath with your finger to grab the cable, and then wiggle it and pull it out just like this. So you want to grab the cable underneath here, so that way if you pull it, it won't yank this cable too hard. Okay, so just like that, and that's how you remove the fan. Then we have to remove this small board here. It's a little tough because there's not much room to move the computer around, if it might fall off my desk. But what you need to use is a T5 here to remove the screw down here. So we'll remove that screw. Okay, and this will allow you to disconnect the eyesight or the webcam cable. And this board, this cable you might have to take out as well, just to get it out of the way. So just lift this cable up, and then what I do is grab as close as I can to the connector on the wires, and then just wiggle it as I pull it, and it pops out just like that. So the main thing we need to remove is this webcam cable here. So to remove that, it has little wings that stick out that you can use a tool to kind of pull on it, but I find that's a lot more difficult. So what I do is I just pinch it close to the connector as possible, like I did with the other ones. Let me see if I can do a close up here so you can kind of see. So basically you just grab the wire here, and then if you grab this, you want to wiggle it, okay? So like this, you kind of just wiggle it. It's hard to see because my finger or my knuckles in the way, but you wiggle it and it comes out like that. You don't want to just yank it out really hard, because if you do, you can rip this connector off the board, or you can rip the cables out of this. I mean, if your screen's broken and you're replacing it, then this part, you're gonna have it on the replacement screen. But yeah, I don't like causing unnecessary damage to components. Okay, so let's zoom back out. Once you do that, this webcam eyesight cable is tucked underneath this board, so you do have to lift up this cable to hold up the board, and then you can pull this eyesight camera cable out from under there, and then it's in this notch here, so you want to move it around there and then pull that out. Okay, then there's another cables we have to remove, is the wireless antennas. So let me zoom in there. Let me see if I can show this. Okay, so you got, just like every other wireless card, you have these 2 antennas. You just pull them up by the tail like this. Okay, so I just pry it up like that and pop it out. Okay, same thing with the other one. Just pry it up. You can use 2 fingers, or if you have some tweezers, you can use that, but you want to just pop it straight up. Okay, then what you do is you want to thread the wire out from underneath here. So what you do is you grab this. Okay, so the 2 antennas that are here, just grab them and then pull them out. So here you can see, or hopefully you can see, but the wire's coming out just like that. Go all the way down. Okay, sometimes you kind of have to wiggle it a little, and then it comes out from underneath the rubber pieces here, but you just keep going. There you go, and then you have the wire out. If you need to take the motherboard out, I think I have a video showing that already, but there's a screw hidden underneath this part of the wireless antenna, so you do have to take the wireless antennas all the way out to get to that screw. Okay, but since I'm not taking all those pieces out, then this is as far as I'm going to remove it. Here's the SSD. If you want to change the SSD, they do have adapters, so you can use an PCIe NVMe SSD in this slot. And then you also got, of course, the wireless card there. There's not really too much to this model. There's the speakers in the bottom corners down here. So if you need to, sorry, it's hard to see because I'm like so far zoomed in. Let me zoom back out. But yeah. Okay, anyways, so we're gonna continue with the screen removal process. So I'm zooming out because what I'm gonna have to do is open the screen about 90 degrees. And then what I like to do is I hang the screen off the desk like this, and I have the rest of it on top of the desk. Okay, so again, we're gonna need a T8 screwdriver for this. So grab a T8 screwdriver. Okay, and then we're gonna have to remove all these screws. Alright, so usually what I do is I loosen them a little bit each first, and then I'll go ahead and remove all the rest. And usually for this, I'll also apply thread locker, red thread locker after, so that way the screws don't come loose, because if the screws come loose, the screen starts wobbling and it's not good. Alright, so I'm removing all 6 of the hinge screws now. Okay. And this hinge side has the wireless antennas. There's a metal bracket that kind of holds it in place, so keep that in mind. When you put back the other one, you're going to have to do that as well. Keep it aligned. There we go. Alright, so now that we got all 6 screws out, you can lift this up. If it is stuck, you might have to open the hinges more. Be careful when you open the hinges because you don't want it to hit the boards and damage them. So you might have to hold the hinges down with your hands or leave the screws in or put it back in a screw. But anyways, once you get that, once you have the hinges open enough, you can just lift the whole screen out just like this. Okay, so we'll set this aside. This one, as you can see, it got damaged. It actually got dented on the back here, and that damaged the screen internally. So that's why it needs to be replaced. So the customer doesn't know how it happened. So I don't know, maybe at night something fell on it and they didn't really think about it. But, yeah. Okay, so now we're getting the replacement screen. Usually when you get the replacement screen, the hinges will be closed, so we're going to have to open them back up. So I'll show you how to do that. Okay, let me just peel off the adhesive that's holding these things down. Okay. Alright. So as I was saying, usually these hinges are tucked down. So what you do is you take the T8 screwdriver and then you can use that to rotate them. Just stick it in one of the spots for the screws and then twist it like that. Okay. So now we're going to put in the screen. Okay, just like this. Make sure that the cables stay up. And also with the LCD connector, I didn't mention it earlier, but the connector with the gold pins, I don't know if you can, I'll zoom in on it later, but this side with the actual gold pins, that's what you want facing up when you plug it in. You don't want this side with the just black plastic piece. I don't know if you can, there we go. So you can see the difference. This side has gold pins. Okay, so let's put that back in. Usually the way you can know is you can look at your old screen and then see which way the cable's been bent, because after it's been in that position for so long, it kind of stays twisted like that for a while. Alright, so what I'm going to do now is I'll put in one screw on either side, just so I can close the screen and then line it up. Okay, might have to keep the first screw a little loose so you can move it around to get the other screw in. Alright, then just tighten those screws. Okay, so once you get those screws in, you want to slowly and carefully close the screen. So I use the screen down like that, and then I just rotate this. Okay, again, be careful. Never shut the lid quickly because you don't know if you left something on the table, you might smash and damage it. Okay, there you go. So once I do that, I loosen these two screws and then I pinch the corners like this to make sure that it's lined up properly. Okay, so you want to make sure that the screen is lined up properly, and then you can tighten those screws back down. We will change the remove these screws again to add the thread locker. You don't need to add the thread locker, but it does help in the long run to prevent the screws from coming loose. So this is kind of going in slightly crooked, so I'm going to readjust it again. Alright, and kind of hold it in place. There we go. Okay, so now we just have to reconnect everything. The hardest part is actually the wireless antennas, but first thing you want to do is reconnect the LCD or LVDS connector. So let me show you this. In a second, let me double check 100%. So as you can see with the old screen, the cable naturally goes to where the gold pins are facing up. I don't know if you can see that in the camera, but if you can see the individual gold pins there, all right? And if you look at the other side, sorry, it's hard to do this. Okay, if you see the other side, it's just a solid gold bar with the black plastic going across. Okay, so you don't want that side facing up, you want it facing down. Okay, so let's zoom in and then we will show you that. We will reconnect the cable. Oops, knocked one screw over. Okay, so let's get this cable. Let me zoom in a little more. Okay, so again, they put a little white dot here on the cable so you kind of know that side faces down, but normally they don't always have that. Again, you want the gold pins facing up. Oops, hopefully you can see. Then you just line up the connector and then you just pull it in. Okay, make sure you pulled it in tight, but don't pull too hard that you might rip the connector off the board. And then you just push this little clip back down. Okay, so I'm gonna put in the screws here with some Loctite. So let me do that real quick, just so that these screws stay in place. I don't know if I can get this in view. Where is it? There we go. Okay, so I'm gonna add the red thread locker. So grab that. So I just get the thread locker. I don't know if you can even see what I'm doing. Okay. Just put a little bit on the side of the screw like that. Put the screw in. Okay, just like that. Make sure the screw's nice and tight. Grab the other screw, do the same thing. Okay, make sure it's nice and tight. And then the last screw. If the cable's in the way, you might want to disconnect the cable first, and then you can put it back afterwards. But there we go. Alright, add the thread locker to this. Okay, there we go. Tighten it up. Make sure it's tightened all the way. There we go. So now that's tightened. Now we're going to go to the other side. And then we want to put back the fan and stuff. Alright, so let me get those out of the way. Okay, so for this side, like before, we need to tuck this piece back under. So what you do is get that cable, put it back in the notch, okay? Make sure that this connector is out all the way. One way you can make sure is you take your charger, make sure your charger isn't plugged in. I'll show you with my charging thing. Let me grab the magnetic connector if I can get it. Let's see here, it's trapped under some stuff. Okay, so basically this, but this is the MagSafe charger. But make sure your charger is not plugged in. So this is one way you can make sure that this board stays aligned properly. Okay, and then you just grab the connector, tuck it in that slot, and then tuck it underneath the board. So this cable is supposed to go behind the cable for this one. So you just tuck it in all the way. All right, and then you can plug this cable in. So for this one, to plug it back in, I do use the screwdriver. So towards the wings, let me see if I can, maybe I can zoom in on this. Okay, so here you can see towards the wings, I use that. Sorry, my hand's in the way. but I use the screwdriver to kind of pull the wings, and I just go from side to side slowly. Okay, you don't want to just yank it all in at once, just like that. All right, and then you know it's completely seated when it doesn't move anymore. Okay, then after that, we're gonna put back the fan. So the fan connector can be a little tricky, so there's the fan here. So to do that, you want to plug in the fan connector first. Make sure that little latch is up, like how we took the latch out. Okay, move the rubber out of the way. Okay, you'll have to put the fan kind of at an angle, and then you can tuck the connector into the slot. Right, then you'll see the white line matches with that, and then you can pull the little latch back down, just like that. And then you want to put the screws, because this connector will be in the way. All right, so let's put the screws for the fan back in. Grab that. Okay, let me make sure I'm putting the right ones. There we go. The fan screw for this side is always this much thicker one. So if you're wondering, this fan screw has a much thicker, I don't know why they did it like that, but yeah, that one's much thicker. Okay, so make sure it's going in properly. Let's see, then we got this screw. I think I might have knocked one and mixed it up a little bit, so let me make sure I don't over tighten this. Yeah, okay. So I think the longer one is at the top. Okay, there's a longer one and a shorter one. So the shorter one goes for the bottom part of the fan, and then the longer one goes to here. Okay, so just like that. Make sure the screws are tightened up. And also, if you notice, I was pushing the fan this way so that it would be lined up with the heatsink properly. Okay. That ensures that it has a tight fit for better air seal. Okay, then I pull this board over to the side along with the magnet connector, and then I put this screw back in. So I have another video showing all the other stuff, like I believe it shows the trackpad replacement, but the trackpad, you just have to take all of these, and this connector is a little bit tricky because you have to push the connector up so it bows out, and then you can unlatch that. Basically, it has the same type of connector mechanism as the fan. All right, let me zoom back out. So now we're going to reconnect this little connector. It's very straightforward. Just line it up and push it back in. Okay, just like that. Okay, get the cables out of the way. Alright, so we're going to flip this back over, and then we're going to have to put back the wireless antenna cables. This one's a little bit tricky. Hopefully it will be okay, because the wireless antennas were replaced, so it has this extra wire heat shrinking on it. Okay, so now we're going to have to tuck the wire for the wireless antenna underneath here. Hopefully you can see. And then what I'm going to do is I'll put one screw first, just so that this metal plate will be aligned properly. Okay, just like that. Then I will get the other screw, add the thread locker, and then tighten it down. Oops, I grabbed the wrong one. Okay, so grab that, add the thread locker, just like that. Put that screw in. Alright, and then this one you want to tighten down all the way. Like that. Then we start taking out the other screws and adding the thread locker to those. So as you can see, they have blue on the screws already. That's blue thread locker, but I don't feel the blue thread locker works too well, so I use the red thread locker. In most cases it will hold up okay, but I tend to see hinges come loose, so just to be safe I always use the red thread locker on them. Okay, so we'll remove this screw as well. Add some more thread locker. Okay, and then we'll tighten this down as well. Alright, so now for the tricky part, we gotta thread the wireless antennas through and then plug them in. Okay, so to do this, I use the multiple screwdrivers. So I use one to kind of hold it in place and then another one to help push it under. And you also have to kind of pull the rubber piece back so that this cable can go underneath. But to do this, you have to be very careful, because if you smash the cable, you can damage it pretty easily. So just know to be careful with that. So I don't know if you can actually see me doing this, but hopefully you get the idea. And then usually it's difficult to tuck these parts until you get it underneath the rubber fan part on both sides. So make sure you do that first. So you have to pull up the rubber piece and then push this underneath. Okay, just like that. Alright, so there we go. Sometimes you might have to use the needle. I use like the larger screwdriver to push it down, so because the smaller one can more easily damage it. So just know that. Okay. Just like that. And then sometimes it helps once you get it past one, you can kind of pull on the wire to kind of help straighten it out, and it makes it easier to get it into the slots on this side. Okay, so keep going. Just tuck it in place. There are little metal pieces. You probably can't see it. I'll see if I can show it close up after I tuck the whole thing in, and then that way you can see what I had to do. Okay, so let me turn this back around. Usually I would test the screen before putting in the wireless antennas, because sometimes it doesn't work right. So usually I would do the wireless antennas after I confirm it's working okay. But in this case, because my partner, I have a supplier, a local supplier that does this, that sells the parts, so he tested it already and it tested okay. So yeah. All right. So in this case, I might have to put the wire above the board and not in this slot here, just because these pieces are kind of larger. So I'm gonna put the thing above here, and then make sure that when I put the lid down, it doesn't crimp this. Okay. So, but you'll get the idea. If you replace it, usually you'll tuck it behind, and then you would follow these little holes here. So I can put one of the antennas over there. So we'll do that. I don't know if I can get it in camera because I have to put my head over to see. Okay, so just like that. I don't think this wire will go in there, but let me try anyways. Yeah, I don't think I can get it with that heat shrink tubing. So this one I'm just going to put over the top here. Okay, and then to connect the wireless antennas, just like every other computer. Sorry, it's moving around. Just line up the antenna on the board. Okay, and then usually I'll run my fingernail over the top to make sure, or you can kind of pull on the wire, see if it's not moving, then you know it's lined up properly, and then just push it down. Okay, same thing with this one. Alright, so line it up, make sure it's in place. Okay, and then you can push it down. Right, and then the wireless antennas should stay in place on their own, just like that. Okay, so again, I'm gonna have to check, make sure it doesn't crimp itself on this, because there is the little screw mount here. Okay, so you want to be careful with that. Okay, let's see here. So don't forget the one other cable that goes over the fan. So you got this one L cable. Okay, so keep in mind which way this L bracket goes. You want it to go on top of this metal piece. If you try and put it upside down, it will go over the fan. You don't want that, okay? Alright, so just make sure it's lined up and then push it down. Same thing with this one. Make sure it's lined up and then push it down. Alright, so that should be all we got. Now we're going to put the battery back in, and then we will test, turn it on, and make sure everything is good. Okay, so for the battery, again, you want to kind of drop it down on top, but you can plug the battery in first, like this. Make sure to keep the battery up so it doesn't get caught on that cable, and then you can push this down. Okay. If you want to test it before you put in all the screws, you want to at least put the middle screw in. Okay. Because if you don't put the middle screw in and then you put this cap on, this clip will get latched in the battery, and then when you take the cover off, it's going to pull that up with it. Okay, so let's check this. Okay, so it does fit in okay. Doesn't feel like it's damaging the screen cable. So now let's open it up and make sure it's working. So usually whenever I replace any components on the computer, I'll do an SMC and a PRAM reset. So for the SMC reset, you do Control, Option, Shift, and then press the power button. If you have the MacBook plugged in, I'll show you how you know you did the SMC reset properly, assuming they didn't have the battery fully charged or 90%. So when you have this plugged in, hopefully, okay, so the light here is orange right now. I don't know if I can show the whole thing in camera because, okay. But anyways, this is orange, okay? Oh, it's turning on itself anyways. So the screen is working. But anyways, let me show you how to do the SMC and PRAM reset. Come on. So here you can see it's actually showing the Apple, so it should be good. But I don't want to show the username, so come on, shut off. Okay, so the computer started up. Let me shut it down. Okay, so again, Control, Option, Shift, and then when you press the power button, this light will go green. So here you can see it goes green, and then it will go back to orange. So that's how you know you did the SMC reset properly. For the PRAM reset, what you do is you turn on the computer, and then you do Command, Option, P, and R. So turn it on, and then press and hold Command, Option, P, and R. You should hear the boot chime. If you don't hear it, you might have to keep holding it. Sometimes you have to wait till the Apple logo comes on. But if it doesn't do the boot chime, the one thing you'll see is the screen will flicker on and off. So right now it should be starting itself back on. Okay, so here you hear the boot chime. Let me turn this off. Okay, so what you do is you press it on, Command, Option, P, and R, wait for the boot chime, then press it. You'll see the screen flash off, and then the thing will start up again, and you'll hear the boot chime a second time. And that's how you know you did the PRAM reset properly. So there you go. Alright, so it should be good. It should be booting automatically. Alright, so there you go. It's booting up. I'm going to cover the little username here. But just so you can see, you see the Apple and the bar, so that should be good. So I'll cover this piece, and then you should see the rest of the screen should be good. So let me show you here. There you go, so you can see the rest of the screen. Alright, so hopefully this video helped you. If it did, please like and subscribe, because that'll help others find this video. It'll also help me, and thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one. The only thing left, make sure you put back the rest of the battery screws, and make sure you put back the bottom case screws. And again, thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.